I was on top of the world. I had just graduated from NYU Stern School of Business, and I received a commission as a second lieutenant in the United States Army. I was gearing up to spend my last summer in the city, having been selected to serve as a summer resident assistant at Hayden Hall, West 4th Street. I was excited. I was going to be a summer resident assistant. I was going to work with people who I had gone to school with for 4 important years of my life. And I had served in that resident assistant position taking care of people for 2 out of those 4 years. I had done it. As a first-generation college graduate, I had navigated undergraduate school, balancing Army ROTC classes with college classes. I paid my way through school by taking on a military obligation, which allowed my mother at the time, a single parent of 4 children, to invest her money in her own law degree. And I would be starting law school in the fall, 1989, at Howard University School of Law on a scholarship. My colleague, Dean Carla Pratt, what you heard earlier, was in my class. But then the unthinkable happened. Moving into the dorms that summer, just like all of my other residents who I had served, I was approached by 2 New York City mounted police officers who only questioned me about why I was on the street alighting from a double-parked car. I explained to the officers that I was pulling out my suitcases and moving into the dorm. They dismounted and continued to question me about what I was doing. I noted there are other residents here alighting from double-parked cars. They too, like me, are moving into the dorms. Before I knew it, I was being pushed against that car and handcuffed. A crowd formed. People who I had served with and been supervised by watched. No one came to my aid. People I had lived with for that 4 years just assumed those officers were right. I was both mortified and heartbroken. I asked the officers then, why are you doing this? I had the sense to ask, what are you charging me with? And they replied, resisting arrest. I was stunned, I was scared, and I was embarrassed. All I could think was, don't you know who I am? I'm a military officer. I'm going to law school. I'm a resident assistant here. Don't you know who I am? What I learned that day was exactly what those who came before me knew all too well. I was Black, and I wasn't supposed to be there. When I was processed at the police station, I got my phone call. Like my colleague, Dean Epps, I called my mother. She raced to New York from Philadelphia in under 90 minutes.
Takes 90 minutes at least.
You're listening, that's great. I'm my mother's baby. When the police learned that my mother was a lawyer, they refused to relent, fearing they'd be sued. I was later arraigned and forced to make a choice to either fight the charges or accept a plea called an ACD, an adjournment and contemplation of dismissal. Any of you know what that is? This type of plea would allow the criminal charges against me to be dismissed if I did not run afoul of the law for 6 months. It's an understatement to say that I could not resolve as fair what was happening to me. But there was one silver lining I clung to during this time. This silver lining was a CUNY clinical professor of law named Stephen Zeidman, who represented me on a pro bono basis. Professor Zeidman helped me make the difficult decision to accept the ACD, even though he knew and reinforced with me that I had done nothing wrong. He let me know that there were things very wrong with our criminal justice system, that I should look forward to law school instead of remaining mired in fighting that system at that time and in that way. He told me the best way I could fight that system was to go to law school and set my sights on being a lawyer. Professor Zeidman was right. Not only was it important for me to move forward and immerse myself in law school, his advice made me realize that my succeeding in law school would be the best response to police misconduct. As well, going through that experience made me appreciate just how vulnerable any one of us are at any time. From the moment I entered law school, I promised myself that I would dedicate my personal and professional life to representing the most vulnerable among us. I kept my promise as a U.S. Army JAG officer. I kept my promise as counsel to indigenous nonprofits and small businesses I represented in Hawaii. I kept my promise to the students I've had the honor to teach, especially those students who are underrepresented and first generation. I moved from teaching to administration because I had a plan to systematize my goal of bringing more people of color and women into the legal profession. Why? Because we bring balance. I am where I am today because of lawyers like my mother and Professor Stephen Zeidman, who brought that balance to bear when I was most vulnerable. I see it as my responsibility to create pathways to the legal profession for people who have had or currently share the challenges I faced or the obstacles that come with being the other. If you share my commitment to promoting the rule of law, to building equity in our system of justice, to representing the most vulnerable among us, you will take up the challenge of law school and you will go into any one of these law schools and be the voice for people who are voiceless. I insist that you do this. Thank you.